Hey there, creepy peeps, and welcome to another Exhumed movie review. Today we are going to be talking about The Phantom Carriage. Really quick though, before I get into anything else, I want to say thank you to my creepy patron peeps for your support of my channel. Thank you guys so much. If you want to find out the perks to being a creepy patron peep, you can follow that link in the description. Directed by and starring Victor Herstrom, The Phantom Carriage takes place on New Year's Eve as the Salvation Army sister, Edith, is dying of tuberculosis. She asks for somebody to fetch David home to her. Meanwhile, David is telling the story of the Phantom Carriage to some friends when they get into an argument leading to David's death. When the coachman arrives, he takes David and revisits certain scenes from his selfish and cruel life. So this film is an adaptation of the novel Kärriage by Swedish novelist Selma Lagerlöf, who also happens to be the first female to win a Nobel Prize in Literature when she won the award in 1909. Side note, I spent a little time, I took a little detour writing my notes to read about our dear Selma, and it turns out she was pretty cool. I highly suggest learning about her if you don't already know about her. Unfortunately, though, this video is about the movie, not her, so I can't go on telling you about her, but definitely look her up. She's very cool. Victor Herstrom, the most prominent director in Sweden during the silent film era, apparently went through the ringer not only to get this film made, but made well. He went to Lagerlöf's house and acted out the entire screenplay for her to get her approval for the adaptation. He also disguised himself and hung out in the slums of Stockholm in order to prepare for the movie. And technically speaking, this movie is a marvel for its time. Post-production was famously long because of the special effect of David and the coachman walking around for most of the movie as ghosts. Double exposure effect was developed by cinematographer Julius Jensen and lab executive Eugene Hellman. It was used previously by Jensen, not to the extent that it was in The Phantom Carriage. And this was before the optical printer was widely available. Basically, the effect allowed the ghostly figures to walk around in 3 dimensions, be able to be covered by an object in the foreground, and at the same time be able to see objects in the background through the figure. This was made extremely difficult as the cameras at this time were hand cranked, so the camera had to be cranked at exactly the same speed for the different exposures. The optical printer would make this step so much easier later on, but was still about a decade away from being a popular device in filmmaking at the time this movie was made. The Phantom Carriage would go on to inspire and influence other films such as Nosferatu, Vampire, and even Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. The most visually obvious scene is when David's wife locks the drunken David in a room to keep him away from their children. David then takes an axe and breaks through the door, which looks eerily similar to that famous scene in The Shining. The film is also cited as being a favorite of famous director Ingmar Bergman, who saw the film when he was young and talks about the impression it made on him. I'll link a video in the description of an interview from Bergman where he is talking about The Phantom Carriage and the influence it had on him in his career. So I highly suggest you check it out. It's super interesting. As far as my thoughts on the film, I thought the film was great. I saw the version where the score was done by Swedish composer Maddie Bai. Hopefully I said that right. In 1998 is when it was created. To my knowledge, it's a popular version. It's a popular score to play along with the movie. I loved the music, and so many of the horror elements in the movie, which I'll get to in a second, were definitely amplified by the score. The movie, though, is definitely not a straight horror by any means. It's got its moments, like David's ghost rising from his body, the carriage itself, and the driver in his robe looking very much like the Grim Reaper, and David's wife getting ready to poison her children and herself, and David, of course, chopping down the door. Other than that, it's more of a supernatural drama and very Christmas Carol-esque. That's not to say it's not good, but I think it explains why this movie isn't talked about as much, at least to my knowledge, like in terms of horror history. Like film history in general, sure, but not horror history. Again, like that's just me, like I had never heard of it, but I feel like most people tend to talk about the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu as kind of like the bedrock of horror, which I'm, again, not saying that's not true. I'm just saying those are more horrific than this movie, which I think is why it doesn't get talked about as much in horror history. That's what I was trying to say. Went a roundabout way of saying that. Overall, I think the movie is worth watching for any fans of film history. Just watch it keeping in mind what year this film came out, and it will elevate your appreciation of it, I'm sure. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5. On IMDb, it has an 8.1 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a 100% critic score and a 90% audience score. And on Letterboxd, it also has a 4 out of 5. This film is available on YouTube for free. I don't know if it's supposed to be, but I plan on making up for it by purchasing the DVD. I know we have the Criterion at work, so I'm definitely gonna purchase it. So hopefully that'll make up for if I accidentally watched it and I should have paid for it first. But I'll leave a link for the movie in the description. Yeah, it's not an affiliate link by any means. If you've already seen The Phantom Carriage, however, let me know in the comment section down below what you thought about it. As always, I do hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new here and become a creepy peep today. I post videos Monday through Friday, and you can ring that notification bell down there to be notified every time I post a video, even though it doesn't always work. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, stay strange. Bye!